I'd like to show you how to bring two images in to Photoshop and blend them together, or to have one maybe even appear like it's inside of the other, or you could do many different types of things with these couple of tools that I'm about to show you, but this is one way that I would use them. I'm going to go to File, Open. I'm going to open both of these, so I want to select both at the same time. To do that, you hold the Control key. I have two selected. Click on Open, and they should open in new windows. I thought that it would be really nice to have this family looking at the fireplace inside of this Christmas bulb. And they're kind of similar in color, as there's a whole bunch of reds here. So this is not a high quality photo. We'll see if this actually will work well for the card that I created. I'm going to prepare the area that I want to bring it into. I want my card to fold open, and I want this to be the bottom. So I'm going to zoom into that section, and then I'm going to scroll down so that it's ready. Going to grab a hold of this, drag it over to the image that I want, and drop it right in. That is really tiny, so we'll probably have issues here with being pixelated. I'm going to give it a try anyways to save time. I'm going to hold the Shift key to keep my proportions the same. Notice I just let go, and that happened. Before, though, I'd like to backtrack a little bit and show you if you can't see these lines. So I'll just hit OK. Some of you, when you import this, I would imagine that it looks like this, and you can move it around, but you can't see the little transform controls. You need to have this box selected in order to have the transform controls work. So again, I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to drag this larger. I'm going to let go of the mouse, then let go of the Control or the Shift key. I'm going to line this up a little bit more so I can drag it. Then I'm going to hold the Shift key again and drag, and boy, oh boy, is this becoming pixelated. I actually don't like how big that's getting. I want to keep some of the image in there. So I think I will position it this way, and then maybe come up with something on here, or possibly put text down in here. That's the beauty of working in Photoshop. You can always change your mind about things later. I believe I will bring this in now, and we can always do things with it later. But I'm going to position it to where I want it to go and shut it off for now, or at least stick it behind. And I'm going to do that by dragging this layer. So you have to grab a hold of the layer in the layer panel down to beneath the layer that has the Christmas bulb on top of it. Taking a drink. Voice is getting scratchy. Then we need to go onto here and add a few blending layers to that. So there's a couple of different things that you can do down here. This is called the effects. That is to create an effect on any of the photos that you have. So we don't need to deal with this right now. There's also, adding a mask, which is what we're going to use in a second. And then there is also an adjustment layer or a fill layer. And we can click on that to see what they look like, but we don't really have to deal with any of that just yet. So we're actually going to just do the masking. When I do the masking, it's like putting a whole nother piece of paper on top of it, and we can do stuff to this. When you do a mask, you have to think of it as like you're covering up a photo. Right now, since this mask is white, that means that everything is visible. If I was to fill this in with black, and I'll prove it to you right now, if I look at my color swatch, it's set at black. So I'm going to go to my paint bucket so that I can quickly put it over everything. And it disappears because I just filled that layer mask with black. So I'm going to hit Control Z. So I'm holding Control and pressing Z once. Now in Photoshop, it's a little bit different. If I hold Control Z It just does what I did last, so it goes back and forth between the two. If I want to undo multiple things, like let's say get rid of this layer mask, I'll hold Control and Alt, which is next to the space bar. Then while I'm holding those two buttons, I press the letter Z, and I can go back and undo multiple things. But I want to keep that layer mask for now. So just to remind you, I have this photo, and let's see what it looks like, positioned underneath this photo, and I want them both visible now. And I'd like to use a paintbrush tool while using black, because black conceals, whereas if I switch them over, white reveals. So I gotta switch them back. Black conceals, white reveals. I'm going to use a brush and I'm going to paint it, and you have to make sure that your layer mask is highlighted, which is what you see there. Otherwise, sometimes if you have this thumbnail highlighted with the white box around it, you'll actually paint on the image, and that's not what you want. You want to paint in the layer mask. So we have the brush selected. We can see what type of brush we want. I want an edge that's fuzzy and not hard, so that it looks kind of like there's a dreamy look going on. You can adjust the size here and then go over top of your photo to see how large it is. You can adjust the hardness, which is again how soft it is around the edges. You have to play with this in order to get this correct. You may have to do it a couple of times. Another way of adjusting the size of your brush are the bracket keys, and the bracket keys are right next to the letter P. Those are the same kind of brackets that are just like in math that you use. I'm using the bracket keys right now. I'm using the right bracket key to make this larger, and I'm going to start off with just clicking, and that will create a little dot right there. I just clicked once and let go. Now I actually really like how that looked, because it looks like it's reflecting just nicely. If I wanted to reveal some of this, but not all of it, not as bright, I could change the opacity of how my brush is working. Now my brush tool is at 100% black right now. But if I were to say, click on this just for now to show you what this looks like, that's my brush tool. That's the same mark I just made right there. If I wanted to lower the opacity, let's say cut it in half, and I'll just do the same thing, it shows more of a gray. Now, if black conceals and white reveals, then gray does sort of a half tone, which kind of reveals things. I'll get rid of these in just a minute, or maybe go over them with a white brush in a second, because I want you to see what it looks like. I need to go back to my layer mask, and I'm gonna just lightly click around this area, and it doesn't quite work here because I can see the edge of the photo and I don't like how that looks. So I'm gonna go back and switch between black and white. And I'm going to start clicking near the photo so that the brush just barely gets rid of this edge right here, because I like how that looks and I want to keep the rest of it. And you can kind of see it actually even in the green. So I'm clicking a lot. There, I like how that looks because it's all back to the way that it was. Excellent. And that is how you use blending using masking in Photoshop. So I need to save as soon as I've done something, and I could just simply hit save because we're never quite sure when Photoshop will stop running for us. That's it.